Hey guys, yeah. So I just tried to make a video about, I don't know. I was watching YouTube and I saw a bunch of videos that were mainly British people talking about things that they didn't understand about America, and I thought, why don't I make a video? And I tried, but I got the settings on my camera completely wrong. Um, didn't do a test shot, and I sat there and yammered on for about 20 minutes without actually knowing about any of it. But I guess I got a good baseline of what to talk about. Um, I saw one of the things in one of the videos was um, they were talking about how they didn't understand uh, pumpkin chunking. This is such a kind of a weird thing in the United States. It's kind of a northern thing around like Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, that kind of like area, the middle, Midwest of the country loves that shit. It's basically where a bunch of people they gather up to have kind of like a party after it's either before winter or after winter, but usually it's after winter. It's in the spring, and it's when a lot of these guys, because winter is usually pretty cold, so a lot of people end up spending a lot of times indoors. Well, some industrious people will throw together these crazy ass contraptions, and then they go out to the field and they try to compete with each other about how far they can throw a pumpkin. And they have like a regulation size pumpkin, like they basically have, it has to be a certain weight, kind of certain shape, that way so everybody's kind of on a level playing field. And then they go out and then they just basically compete for how far they can throw it. I mean, I understand that people probably understand the whole concept of it. The weird part is that the fact that we do it in the first place. Not all Americans do that stuff. There's a lot of them. I mean, a lot of people that do, and it looks fun. I've never been to one, but it looks fun. Um, it's just basically trying to find a way to turn anything into pretty much a party. People go out, get drunk, watch some stuff blow up, watch some pumpkins get shot, people compete with each other. It's all good fun. Um, Another thing that they were saying that they didn't understand about America was the American dream, or what we call the American dream, which is basically, I guess, being able to pull yourself up, from the bottom and work your way to the top. That's the whole idea, is the fact that, supposedly in America, you can start out with pretty much nothing. And through hard work and perseverance, you can work your way up to being, the top dog kind of guy. That's the whole idea of it, is to be that poor bastard in the gutter, and, through just sheer willpower and effort, being able to work your way up to being, say, like a CEO. How many times that happens? You could say it happens more often here than anywhere else, but at the same time, it's not necessarily like the most, common thing. The other way that it's also referred to, the American dream, is basically having, owning your own home, having a family, your 2.3 kids, a wife, and, basically having a good place to live and being, the master of your own destiny kind of thing. How many people actually have achieved that? I mean, I'd say a good deal. There's a lot of people that have, cool stuff. But, and that work hard for it. And there's a lot of people that have that. But then there's also a lot of people that, try and, get railroaded. There's two sides to every kind of coin, but it's because the country is supposed to be like the land of opportunity and everything like that. Another thing that I saw was huge trucks. This one I don't share the uh, what seems to me to be the majority of people is like, even if they don't really like other motorized vehicles, people in the States seem to really love huge lifted pickup trucks. Like, that is just something that wouldn't work in a lot of other countries. I mean, I spent 2 years living in Germany, and I knew people that were in the military that had brought over their gigantic lifted trucks. And I'm like, man, I don't even know how those guys can drive those things around, because there's no parking that fits that. There just isn't. And they're loud, they're annoying, and a lot of the Germans really didn't like it. And I don't blame them. I don't like those trucks either. But they're very prevalent here. It's just kind of an attitude that kind of goes along with it, that, oh yeah, well, I got this big whole honking truck, and we're gonna go out and we're gonna go mudding. And I understand, mudding and stuff's fun, but it's like god damn, they're just going completely and utterly over the top. And a lot of it's for fun, but then a lot of it's also just sort of like, people are always trying to one up each other. People always seem to be, in the United States at least, seem to be more concerned about having more than the next guy than what it really means to have something like that. Like, what the understanding is. Like, well, of course I have this big truck. I mean, you see John down the street, look at the lift kit he's got, and you're attacking me. I'm moderate. Mine's only got a 6-inch lift. He's got 8. He's got 46-inch tires. I've only got 40. Like, that whole argument spiel back and forth. I don't know. I don't really get it. I've never really been that much into trucks. Another one was how all the movies and TV shows seem to portray 16-year-old kids driving to school. And I mean, that does happen quite a lot, actually. But, maybe not in the same context. Usually, if somebody's driving to school, if they bought the car, most likely it's a piece of crap. I mean, stuff that wouldn't pass inspection a lot of times in most other countries. Like, I know my car my first car that I worked from when I was 13 till I was about 15 to be able to buy, which the car was only $800. The insurance per 6 months was way more than the cost of the car. I know that thing would never have passed anywhere in Europe. It wouldn't have passed MOT. It wouldn't have passed TÜV. It wouldn't have, I mean, it was a terrible hunk of junk. But I loved that car, and I drove it. I still could only afford to drive it to school. Maybe 3 months during my senior year. Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that it's the ideal, is that, okay, when I go to high school, that was one of my goals, is I was like, man, okay, I don't want to ride the bus. I want to be one of the cool kids that drives to school. That's the thing. I had my parking space, even though I didn't use it barely ever. I got my assigned spot. That was the cool thing. Yeah, I'm a senior. I can drive to school now. But it didn't happen all that often. I mean, then there are people that, their parents buy them, like a brand new car, and they can drive to school, and I'm just sort of like, man. Those are the people that you're just sort of like, man, you lucky shit. You bastard. Wait, you fucking parents buy you all this crap. I can barely afford gas, Like, I definitely, I had to work pretty much a year just to insure myself, just to insure my car. And then, what was it? So, no, not everybody in high school drives themselves to school when they're 16 or older. A lot of people mostly ride the bus. People get cars, but sometimes they just can't even afford to really drive them to school. Also, I think this is another misunderstanding too, because of weird concept, is because we seem to have a really low driving age compared to a lot of first world countries. You know, you can, in most states, you can get your driver's license when you're 16. You can even get your learner's permit when you are 15 in some places. If you get your learner's permit, that basically says that, okay, you have to, the only time that you can drive is your parents or somebody over 21 has to be, with a driver's license, has to be in the car at all times so that they can supervise you driving. And you're supposed to learn from them. You know, it's kind of like an apprenticeship program. But getting a driver's license in the United States is super simple compared to most other places. Most other places, it really is a process. It requires a lot of money, time, and investment, and a lot of instruction. In the United States, most states don't even require you to take what we call driver's ed, which is sometimes a week, maybe 2 weeks of actual instruction and classroom time. Most of them just require you to take a pretty bullshit test to get your learner's permit, and then you take another written test, which is depends on the state, but it's no more than like 50 questions. And you know, you pay like $35, and then you take a really short, pretty much 20-minute driving test where you just drive around. They tell you to do things basically once. Oh, hey, I'm gonna want, in really just arbitrary things. Okay, there's a child, you know, stop, and you slam on the brake, you know, or they go, okay, emergency stop now, and they just want you to hit the brake hard, you know. And then they're like, okay, now pull into this parking space. I mean, stuff that's really simple. And it's a wonder why nobody in the United States knows how to drive, especially when it gets like slick or wet out here. People lose their damn minds, crash into other people, and have no idea what to do. Yeah, it's bad. And then what was it? There was another one that was, why does it seem like all Americans live in these massive houses? And I will say, especially after being in Europe for, you know, a couple of years, that, I mean, yeah, we generally do live in pretty large houses in comparison. A lot of it has to do with the area that you live in, though, because the people that live in cities, like big cities, like LA, Miami, Chicago, New York, they tend to live, if you live, the closer you live towards the city center, the more you're likely to live in a small apartment. Because, you know, as you get towards the middle of a city, the space gets really, really hard to come by. But the people that live out in the country generally live in larger houses, and that's just because there's a lot of space. I mean, we have, you know, 300 million people spread over quite a large area in comparison to a lot of other countries. I mean, by comparison, Japan is about the size of California, and they have nearly half the population of the United States in that same area. So, if you put it that way, it's, yeah, we have a lot of space, especially in the middle of the country. There's not a lot. You know, states like Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, there's just not much there. There's not a lot of people that live there, and there's a lot of open tracts of land. Even in some of the more populous states, I mean, California has the highest population of any state, and they still have a lot of open space up in the north section of California. The northern part is not very dense, and that has the largest population of any state. Population density, probably, I'd say New England area is probably the most dense when it comes to just a lot of people for the amount of space that they have. Florida's, I don't know, kind of dense, but there's still a lot of, really lots and lots of open land. That was one of the things that I met a lot of people in Germany that just could not understand how long it takes to drive from like one place to another. And, you know, like, we have these people that make these long ass commutes, like an hour and 20 minutes drive from, you know, their home to work, and it's just because of the fact that, you know, like, stuff's pretty spread out a lot of times. I mean, we don't build too vertically unless we have to. And things just are really spread out from each other. Like my my landlord was telling me how he wanted to, him and his wife wanted to take a trip from. They were gonna fly into, I think Orlando. No, it was Georgia. They were gonna fly into Atlanta, and they were gonna drive. He was gonna rent like an RV, and they were gonna drive to California. And his wife was like, "Oh, well, that should only take 2 days, right?" And I'm like, depends on how long you drive. If you don't sleep, yeah, you still won't make it in 2 days. If you want to just kind of drive around and sightsee, it's probably going to take 5, or maybe more, depending on how long you stop at things. I mean, it's hard for some people to fathom how long it takes to actually get from coast to coast. I mean, you can do it quicker, but it's not like a leisurely drive. You are going to actually have to really, really try, and you're going to have to take shifts with people to actually go faster. I know I've done it. All right, I went from Tampa, Florida to Las Vegas, basically, in 41 hours. So not quite 2 days. Pretty close though. And that was 3 people taking shifts the entire time, and we didn't really sleep much. We only really stopped for food and gas. So yeah, but when you consider like that kind of thing, it makes sense that we have kind of larger places, people that live out in the countryside that have more space. I mean, it's supply and demand. If you have more space, you can build bigger. The land is cheaper because it doesn't cost so much, because not as many people want it. It's a whole supply and demand thing. Yeah. If I find some more, I'll make another video. But actually, I think I might make another one that is things that I have, things that I don't understand about, say, other countries, or places that I've lived, and because I've lived in a few other countries since I joined the military, and I'd like to kind of like make a couple videos on that. Like, I mean, yeah. So, anyways, see you guys later.